you know, you make something and then it,
At the end of
give me
the
a second, cause I'm actually gonna,
start up.
yeah, gonna hit the button.
Hello.
How you doing?
Okay, we're live.
I call to order. The time is 6:10. And let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just so everybody knows, we have a new sound system, so I would let you know that when you are going to go ahead and speak into it, get as close as possible to make sure that we get your voices. And I know you two are sharing over there, so
That's all right.
play nice.
The approval of the previous minutes.
No, roll call first.
Oh, roll call.
Shaniel Brown is out today, is absent. Charisse Colon,
Here.
Renisha McNeil,
Here.
Eric Morset.
Here.
We have quorum.
Approval of the previous meeting minutes. Motion to approve the minutes.
I'm just going to make a change to the agenda. The minutes, it states adoption of minutes from October 20th, but instead the minutes that are uploaded are the ones for the 6th. So if we could make that correction, please.
And that's the second roll call.
No, you're just going to now entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. So entertain a motion to approve the minutes for October 6th, 2022.
I first.
You make the motion?
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
That's fine.
I second.
Motion made by Ms. McNeil, seconded by Mr. Moret. Ms. McNeil? Where's that? Sorry. Ms. McNeil? Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Morset?
Yes.
Ms. Colon?
Yes.
Passes 3-0. Oh.
Okay, so next we are doing the additions, deletions, withdrawals, and continuances. Changes, if any.
Giddy, is it on?
Is the red button down?
Let's see. Test. That down.
Is it
It's on.
coming?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Board, Mike Vondermeulen with Keith. We'd like to go ahead and request that item 6.5 be stricken from the agenda. It's actually an attachment to 6.4.
So I entertain a motion to approve. Is there a second?
No, we need a first of all.
I made the
Motion?
motion. I made the motion to approve
The agenda.
the agenda.
The amended agenda, sorry.
I second.
Motion made by Ms. McNeil, seconded by Mr. Morset. Mr. Morset?
Yes.
Ms. Colon?
Aye.
Ms. McNeil?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Number 6.1, the applications, public hearings, file number 22CP-03, applicant, the town of Pembroke Park, location southwest 30th Ave, and the request is the town-only land use plan amendment from industrial to commercial.
Good afternoon, board members, Madam Chair. Good afternoon and Happy New Year. The following 4 items that you have before you are part of a larger single concept that the town is acting as the applicant for. It's part of a mixed-use entertainment district, which we will break down and provide details on one by one as we go through all items that are under item 6, including 6.1, 2, 3, and 4, respectively. We'll take item 6.1 now first in turn. I believe that there's a presentation from the town planner. And as you stated, Madam Chair, this is a town-only land use plan amendment to change the town's comprehensive master plan from industrial to commercial within this specific area.
Again, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Board, Mike Vondermeulen with Keith. I am going to go ahead and make one presentation for all 4 items, and then as each individual item comes up, we can go ahead and adopt the staff report and the backup information for each one. Open up each of the public hearings. If you want to hold your questions for each of the individual applications, you can do that, or we can have the full discussion during item 6.1. Marlon, do we have a clicker?
No, actually, I don't have
Oh,
the clicker.
okay.
I'm so sorry.
Can I?
You just tell me
ask you
switch,
to-
I'll switch.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to use this one, if you don't mind. Is it?
Go there.
Oh no, I think it'll be okay. So this is the Southwest 30th Avenue study area. It's plus or minus 20 acres or so. I think you're all familiar with the location. It goes from Pembroke Road all the way down to Hallandale Beach Boulevard, right in between I-95 and the CSX Railway. We have presented various items to the Town Commission as well as to the Planning and Zoning Board. So we had a Town Commission workshop on September 28th. We had a Planning and Zoning Board on October 6th. Those are the minutes that you just passed, but that is when we made the initial presentation on Southwest 30th Avenue. And then the Town Commission, we made a second presentation to them on October 15th. You can go ahead and forward it. Yes. So the applications for you today, you have the town-only land use plan amendment. We have a request for redevelopment units from Broward County, and I'll go into that a little bit in more detail. We also have a new text, a new code section that we're proposing. That is the creation of the mixed-use entertainment district. And then lastly is to rezone all the parcels on Southwest 30th Avenue. So one parcel, the one right at Hallandale Beach Boulevard, is Zone C1 already. So that parcel, as well as the remaining ones that are zoned M1 along 30th Avenue, would all be rezoned to the mixed-use entertainment district, assuming that the Town Commission adopts the ordinance. We can go ahead to the next one. Okay, so the first application, it is a land use plan amendment. Now, I think we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but when we said it's a town only, the town has, excuse me, a land use categories of commercial and industrial. In Broward County, where we are required to be consistent and compatible with their comprehensive plan, they have collapsed all of their districts, or many of their districts. The commercial, industrial, employment center have all been collapsed into a commerce district. So when we say town only, it's only the town that's making this change. So we don't have to go to the state like many other land use plan amendments. We don't have to go to Broward County other than to recertify the plan and just to notify them of this change. So this is a change from industrial to commercial. It's the same area that we've been discussing. We did an impact analysis, and you'll find that in your staff report. or just past the staff report, is the town-only industrial. So in that this is essentially the Broward County application for any time you do a land use plan amendment. They request that you provide them all this analysis and information, and it goes into quite a bit of detail in terms of consistency on water, sewer, drainage, parks and recreation, which is not applicable in this particular instance, solid waste, traffic, mass transit, and so all of that analysis is in here. Everything here is essentially consistent and compatible. And again, the change is only town only. And so essentially, we recommend approval of the land use plan amendment. If we go to the this next slide, oops, can you go back one? Sorry. Oops, back to, okay, forward one. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so the next application is what we call redevelopment units. So I believe that the board is probably familiar with flex units and affordable flex units and reserve units. The town has essentially assigned those units to various different developments in the town. There are approximately 118 units left. So when you start running out of units, Broward County allows each of the cities and municipalities, cities and towns, to go ahead and request additional units. And we thought this is an opportune time to go ahead and request those units, because when you talk about the mixed use district that we're proposing, we can have the mix, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, a mix of residential, a mix of commercial, a mix of office, mix of commercial recreation and entertainment venues. All those can be mixed and integrated either horizontally or vertically inside the buildings. So one of the things that we realized is that there really wasn't that many flex units left. And so there's 118 remaining. So we, as the town, can request 168 additional units. That would bring your total to about 686 units. And that can not only be applied to Southwest 30th Avenue, but as you'll see in the application to Broward County, is that the county requires what they call a flex receiving map. So what we have identified right now is Southwest 30th and all other commercial land use property in the town. So that's mostly all of the properties along Hallandale Beach Boulevard, a parcel at 56 and County Line, and a few other just little spotty places. Now, if at any time in the future the town would like to expand the area where they do those redevelopment units, you can certainly come back and do another change. But at this initial time, and with the timing of all these other applications, we're going ahead and requesting that all commercial land use property within the town become what we call a flex unit or residential unit receiving area, so that you could have mixed use not only on 30th, but you have the potential of having it along Hallandale Beach Boulevard and also at the corner of 56 and County Line. 500, yeah. So, oh, I'm sorry, yeah. So there's 118. So let me explain. There's a couple different numbers here. So there's 118 flex units that are remaining. Those the town has right now. There is an application in that may need some of those flex units, so that would even be less to be able to apply to such a high density, high intensity area of Southwest 30th. So that's why we requested the maximum number that we could from Broward County. that number 568 sounds a little strange. You know, why didn't they just say 500, 700, 800? Well, they do. They allow 500 units, which are unrestricted, or they allow the county allows 750 units if you provide a 15% set aside for deed restricted affordable housing. So we decided to request the max. One of the things that you'll see in the text amendment coming up is that we do the 15% set aside actually in the text of the zoning ordinance. However, that we weren't able to request 750 units because the number of units that are in the town, they also had a little caveat. It was 750 or, let me get the correct,
Okay.
so we'll be, this was the new insert. So this was the item that you received from the town clerk either yesterday or today.
Yesterday.
I do have additional paper copies.
Explaining what.
Sure.
No, I have it.
Oh, it'll be page 2.
Yeah, page 2. Okay.
Yep. It says the available number of units can be increased 750 units or 15% of the total number of dwelling units in the town. So we were not able to receive the full 750 based on taking the entire number of units within the town and applying the 15% rule. So that's why we're requesting 568. Again, in reference to this request for redevelopment units, there's some additional analysis that is in this package, and it just talks about demonstrating that you have the concurrency items: potable water, wastewater, drainage, solid waste, and so it's very similar to the land use plan amendment that was in 6.1. Moving on, and again, we recommend approval of this application. The third item is 22 RZ-01, which is the text amendment. And so this would be the new text and it's a creation of a whole new zoning district. It would be called the MXE, or Mixed Use Entertainment District. We're going to insert it into Division 5.8 and start at section 28-209 of the city's or the town's zoning code. And essentially what we tried to do was take this text and mirror it very similar to your other zoning districts. So it has essentially the same format: the permitted uses, the special use regulations, prohibited uses. Then it goes into the height, the plot size and floor area, setbacks, and then the off-street parking, on-street parking. And then there's some newer items in this zoning code that we'll discuss a little bit further. Proposed uses in this text amendment are essentially to allow the commercial recreation, entertainment venues. It could be theater, movie theater, convention center space, anything like that. Office space, retail, restaurants, hotels, and restaurants, hotels and residential units. So you could have one of these type of units, or one of these types of uses, or you can mix and match, and it could be integrated horizontally or vertically within the building. The non-conforming uses, the industrial, the warehouse uses that are there now, they can remain, they can continue to operate. And then the town has in Article 5 of the zoning code how they handle non-conforming uses and non-conforming buildings. And essentially, if they're abandoned over a certain period of time, then they would not be able to be reused. They would have to be used for one of the permitting uses. And if they're destroyed over, I believe it's probably 50%. If a building is destroyed over 50%, either by fire, flood, hurricane, then it would have to be rebuilt, meeting the new code, and have to have one of the permitted uses. Going to the next sheet. So, continuing on, just discussing some of the regulations. We have inserted a 15% affordable housing set aside. So each development would need to set aside 15% of their residential units that they receive and restrict them to affordable housing. That would be very low, or moderate income. There are certain rate structures and certain sales structures that are issued by Broward County every year, and we would keep a running tab of that. And of course, all of those units would be deed restricted, and so that is where the enforcement mechanism would be for the affordable housing. In there is a waiver provision. So if there's a project that's just too good to be true and but they just can't do for affordable housing, there's a waiver provision that the city commission could waive that requirement. The density that we start with is 50 units per acre. And then we have a density bonus of up to 100 units per acre. And then there are criteria that are on page 12 of 53 that allows you the bonuses. So there's 3 different options right now. Again, this is public art. If you create upper level pedestrian connections between your property and other properties. So we encourage that mix, that not just only the activity on the street, but the activity on an upper level that could be consistent. That is one of the visions, and in a way to help encourage that vision is to go ahead and give developers the possibility of a density bonus by doing that. And then the last one is structured parking, making sure that there's not a lot of surface lots, that you're building to the densities and intensities that the town is envisioning for Southwest 30th. And then we'll go into the height. The height is 150 feet. That is plus or minus a 14, 15-story building. And then you do have height bonuses. Again, there are criteria for recommending, for meeting an additional height. And then both of these heights, whether it's 150 or 200 feet, they'll still to review an approval or a determination of no hazard by the Federal Aviation Administration. Essentially, there are no setbacks. However, one of the things that we realized when we were reviewing all of the existing conditions out on Southwest 30th is that the right-of-way width varies anywhere between sometimes as shallow as 25 feet to more than 60, 65 feet. So what we've done is we've created 2 road profiles that you'll see that will be inserted into the plan. And essentially, this is the vision for the town and what we would like to see in terms of roadway configuration. It encourages on-street parking and landscaping, and also encourages pedestrian zones. So what we try to do is leave some flexibility that for those parcels that do not have enough right of way width, and the building just may not fit the correct way on the site, um, based on what's being built. There is pedestrian zone 1 and pedestrian zone 2. Pedestrian zone 1 is a definite, it's guaranteed. However, there's the option that that could be your sidewalk instead of the instead of on-street parking or landscaping. So it leaves you a little bit more option, and then you would just need to tie those two together. But you would have a good 55-foot roadway width that's consistent along the entire length of Southwest 30th as it makes the turn and then heads the other direction, heading south. And so you'll see two different options. One is the one that's abutting I-95, and then the one that is not. Then there's the off-street parking. We did not create any like automatic waivers. I think this code is, it's new. We want to see how things move forward, how the first couple of projects and developments occur. So instead of creating just off the board reductions in required parking, we put in here that, that we recognize when you mix uses, there are a lot of efficiencies. If you're going to be living in the building, then you probably also would be going to maybe one of the restaurants, or if there is office and hotel, that or office and hotel, or office and residential, you could be living and working all in the same area. You may not even need a car. You could take the train. So there's a lot of visioning that occurs, and I think Paul may I'm putting him on the spot, but I'll give you a good example. A lot of the properties and a lot of the projects in Miami that required parking garages are realizing that there's a lot of space. A lot of the folks just don't have cars or use cars. You have Uber, you have mass transit, you have so many other options that a lot of times folks don't have vehicles anymore. So we wanted to make sure that it's encouraged, that the developers go ahead and use various agencies, quasi-judicial, or not quasi-judicial, but different agencies like the Institute of Traffic Engineers, American Planning Association, and the Urban Land Institute. All of them do studies. All of them have their engineers and planners study to find out what the real demand for parking is versus what's required in a code. So when a project comes and moves forward to the Planning and Zoning Board and to the Town Commission, and they want to reduce the parking by 50, 60 spaces, or because they're mixing uses, and one of these other agencies says, when you do mix these uses, you don't need this much parking, then that option is available for them, and then it's just a matter of review and approval that runs concurrent with the site plan process. Another thing is to go ahead and allow credit for the on-street parking that will be on the property. One of the items that we discussed. Correct. You wouldn't need to pay it. The town may go ahead and meter it. That would be their prerogative. But if a development is short 5 spaces, 6 spaces, but there's 6 or 8 spaces on the street, they would get credit for them as part of their site plan approval process. But they're open to the public, and they can be metered. It's first come, first serve. They're not restricted, or they're not private spaces to the developer, but they receive credit for those spaces as part of their required parking. And it's a math game in terms of the required parking, because I'm sure some of the folks here in the audience tell you that structured parking is not cheap. It's fairly expensive, and so you try to be as efficient as possible to make sure that your residents and your patrons are all happy. There's enough enough spaces available, but not so many spaces available that you've just spent a couple extra, $5-6 million on a level parking that's not needed, and that's what we're trying to avoid. One of the options that we created here was also pretty much to put on notice to property owners, is that if they desire to engage with the town, there's the opportunity to build above Southwest 30th Avenue. So we have created some actual minimum requirements that if they do develop, that the first 30 feet, that's essentially 3 full stories, is still open for light, air, ventilation. But then there's the possibility of constructing or leasing property from the town to build higher and to use that space. But it's with a lease through the city.
And how high?
It would go with the zoning requirements. So it would right now, the way it's written, you could allow the 150 to 200 feet. But that first 30 feet is still open. That allows maintenance folks to fix the water pipes if they burst, anything like that. Large vehicles being able to get in and maneuver and work underneath. And then that rest of that space would be open or available for development. Lastly, there are some design standards that we created, and this was just to help encourage a lot of the different goals that we had for Southwest 30th. So we talked about the landscape and pedestrian zone 1 and the landscape and pedestrian zone 2. What should be located in there, and it's going to be the responsibility of the developer to construct it as part of their project. And then that option, if additional space is needed, that the option of pedestrian zone 2 could go away. We encourage active uses on the ground floor. There's the percentages of the ground level facade that must be clear glass. Again, if there's a project that's just too good to be true, and that for some reason they couldn't do that, you couldn't meet that 70% requirement, again, there is a waiver provision in here for the town commission to waive that as part of the site plan approval process. The encouragement of the upper level and rooftop decks. We're trying to limit the size of the vehicle openings on Southwest 30th, so that you don't have large openings in the building. So we're trying to encourage that it be in the 24 to 30 foot range, as long as they can maneuver all their vehicles safely in and out of the structure parking, or in and out of what we call the back of house. So, which is the next regulation, is to make sure that any of the back of house, any of the dumpsters, refuse, that they are screened from the public view. Mainly, I think in terms of designs, you would have that wall that would come out. Your back of house would be behind that wall, and then you'd have your your driving, your truck traffic and or your vehicle traffic going into your structured parking. So it kind of starts self-designing itself on a level at the ground level. You know, when you're encouraging um, ground level activation as well as limiting the size of the openings. There's the screening of the parking, screening of the parking garage. We want to encourage that, you know, we do have residents, and you actually do have residents in Hallandale Beach on the other side, depending on how big these parking structures are, whether they're 3 stories, 7 stories of parking, that you have proper screening, decorative screening of some kind, so that you can't see the cars, can't see the lights going through. It's more of an aesthetic.
You mean like between the concrete?
Yeah. So yeah. So not it doesn't have to be just where the opening is, but there are so many creative, and if you take a look at all the taller buildings, there are a lot of creative options for not too many. You can see the green wall over there on the one, but green walls are metal mesh. They can be wavy, they can be chainmail, or they could even be like the 1950s breeze block. Yeah, you. Yeah, yeah. So you do, you know, you're encouraging that now. That those those are going to be the screenings from either side. Now you don't need to screen the other sides, because if another building comes in next to you, you know, that screening would have no benefit to anybody. So the screening would be mainly on the I-95 side and on the CSX side, and it's just aesthetics.
I think personally, like if the tracks, like if you make it really creative and alluring, it attracts the people to say, "Oh, what's that?"
That's correct.
And then they come into town.
Agreed. The last is bicycle parking, in terms of uh, one of the goals for the town, and this one is, you know, it's very open for interpretation. One is we definitely want the ground level public bike parking. You know, that's just a bike rack here and there. But then we also want to encourage, you know, biking. So there'll be, you know, we'll encourage developers as they come in to do, you know, a bike room or bike lockers, you know, or other creative methods that they have. And they can provide analysis to us to say, this is how many bikers we expect, you know, this is how many employees will come by bike, and this is how many residents we think would use a bike locker.
Would there be bike lanes? Would there be, would you put like bike lanes?
This time we do not have bike lanes, but if for some reason we would want to, right now it'd just be what we call sharrows. You'd be sharing the travel ways, because you have on-street parking. Now, if the priorities change for the town, and there's plenty of adequate structured parking in all these buildings, then by all means you could take one of those zones, either the ones furthest away, and you could create a bike path, including a dedicated bike path and a separated bike path. And then, so these were some of the imageries that we were showing. You know, these are fairly long or rectangular buildings with some fairly good height. So this is something that, you know, just to help visualize what we'd like to see in the area. And then, Merlin, if you go to the last one. So the last one is just the actual rezoning. So once the town commission approves this mixed-use entertainment district, then we would just go ahead and rezone all the property that is outlined here in green. Again, we did the land use plan amendment for the portion that is purple, and then the red parcel at the bottom there is actually already consistent land use wise, but we would rezone all parcels on Southwest 30th. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation. Again, we recommend approval of all four applications.
So basically, you're just creating a downtown area on 38.
Yes, yes. It's not so much a downtown, but more of a it's very linear. So you're not creating this one pocket, but you're creating an intense area along I-95 and along the railroad track that would allow for this type of development to occur, and it has very easy access to the interstate and to Pembroke Road and to Hallandale Beach Boulevard. So it lends itself to that type of development, and from what we're hearing from property owners and developers is that and this goes back to the presentation, was this area in the location of Pembroke Park is almost like at a crossroads between two major seaports, two major airports. Um, these two large communities, whether it's Miami-Dade or Broward County, and so you have the possibility of people who do not want to be like right in the dead centers of the downtowns, but in an area that they can traverse back and forth and actually both enjoy any direction, whether it's east, west, south, or north. And so I think what you're going to see is a lot more interest, more so I think on the hotel side, and on, I think that would be the main first interest, and then as the area develops, and if it's successful the way we would like to see it, then you would see the other parcels get redeveloped, and then you would see that mix of uses. Now, I don't expect to see any change on Hallandale Beach Boulevard. You have an office building that's there. It's fairly new. Some of the other buildings in the area that are fairly new, but the other ones where you're 60, 70-year-old buildings, there's a good possibility of redevelopment.
And the new text, is that the company that is working with us at Wawa?
Yes.
With the boutique, Migo? The new text? I heard the name new text in tonight.
Yes, board members, Miguel Nunez, building official. Yeah, no, that's the micro hospital that is being built at the Wawa site, along with the storage building on 32nd and Hallandale Beach Boulevard.
Okay.
So it's not directly on this district, but it has an influence on that area because it's a hospital. It's a 10-bed hospital, so it will have an impact on that area too.
Oh, true. Okay, I see.
What?
Is there any limitations in the city charter for rezoning as requested? Does our charter allow for this request to happen?
I believe the only thing that the charter requests or require for us when we do this kind of districts and we kind of redistricting is that we bring it to the planning and zoning board and then approved by the commission.
Okay.
In addition, of course, Broward County and any other state agency as needed.
He said something about the units and the waivers. Right? Somewhere in your presentation.
Oh yeah, so there are units. There's there's a couple different applications. So we have that one application that we're requesting to get units from Broward County so that we can assign them to various projects that are either on Southwest 30th or on Allendale Beach Boulevard or other commercial areas in the town. Now the waiver the provision that we had is specifically for Southwest 30th, and that was only the town council can request that. Now, there's still a hammer over the town by Broward County. We are still required when we report and inform the county when the units are used. We also have to tell them which ones are affordable and which ones are not. And there are specific rules and regulations in the Broward County plans, their goals, objectives, and policies that spell out all of those processes. And it's Broward County that issues affordable housing certificates. And so those are the things that we would be relying on for each of those projects when they come in.
I don't have any questions.
Madam Chair, if I may, as a reminder, although the town planner did provide for the board's benefit a comprehensive analysis of each item that you will vote on, I just would like to remind you that you will be voting on each item individually. So now if there is a motion and a second and you go forward with this, you will be, for the purpose of the item that is heard and on the table presently, you will be voting on the land use plan amendment application for Southwest 30th. The land use plan amendment from industrial to commercial. I would ask that prior to entertaining a motion, that because this was a meeting that was publicly noticed, that you open up the floor for any members of the public or that are present here today who wish to speak on this item. Yes, absolutely. You're welcome.
Okay.
You're gonna open up the floor for public comment, and then you're gonna close the floor. You don't have to go. And then you close the floor for public comment if there isn't any.
Well, I'd like to open up the floor for any public comments.
Comment?
No public comments?
No.
So we'll close the public comment section,
Public comments section.
and now it's this is your item, Madam Chair and board members.
So, I make entertain a motion to approve, file number 22CP03, Town of Pembroke Park, Southwest 30th Ave, the town-only land use plan amendment from industrial to commercial.
Do you have a motion? Somebody motion?
I can motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Ms. Colon,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Morset,
Aye.
motion passes 3-0. Next item, 6.2. Open for public comment.
I'll read the item into the record, and then you could go ahead and at that point you should open it to public comments, and then if the board wants to entertain additional discussion pertaining to this particular item, then that is your pleasure. Okay, so item 6.2, file number 22CP04. The applicant is the town of Pembroke Park. The location is townwide, and the request is redevelopment units from the Broward County Planning Council.
And I would like to open the floor for any comments.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if you could just go ahead and adopt the presentation and the staff report as part of this item.
I do adopt the presentation.
No, it's your board has to adopt what he just mentioned. Yes, except what
Just
the
accept,
board
yeah.
needs to accept.
That's fine.
I accept.
Okay, so Are you asking her to ask for a motion
But
to?
just for purposes of the record, just acknowledge that the presentation that was given by the planner also applies to this item. You could now it's part of the record. It's understood that that application that was given, that presentation that was given at the beginning of this hearing, also pertains to this item, and that's for the board's pleasure. You could now move forward with public comments, uh, and then you could entertain a motion, or you could have a conversation about this item. Whatever it's the board's pleasure, man.
Okay, so I'm adopting the presentation that's given along with the redevelopment and the amendments. So do I have approval?
What you're doing is you're acknowledging that the presentation is part of also this item. So the board agrees that the previous presentation that was discussed is part of this particular item 6.2. And
Yes,
now
and
you can
Madam-
open it up to public comment.
And Madam Chair, you're just noting that for the record.
Yes.
There's no,
No
I believe
action.
there's a
There's
vote.
no action
So
required.
we're noting that
Yes,
this is a
okay.
part of.
Mhm.
So I'm acknowledging that this is part of our plan.
Right.
And I would like to open the floor. Any comments? Okay, close the floor. I know. Motion?
Make a motion to approve 6.2.
Aye.
I second that motion.
Motion made by Ms. McNeil, seconded by Mr. Morset. Ms. McNeil,
Aye.
Mr. Morset,
Aye.
Ms. Colon. Motion passes 3-0. 6.2, 6.3, sorry.
6.3, file number 22RZ01. The applicant is the town of Pembroke Park. Location is Southwest 30th Avenue. This is a text amendment, creation of mixed-use entertainment district. Now, I mean, as you did with the application before, just a verbal acknowledgement that the presentation that was provided by the town planner also applies to this item.
The presentation that were given by Mr. is also part of this item.
Okay, and
6.3.
now you could open up the floor for.
Open up the floor, please.
No
Close
comment.
the floor. And I would like to make a motion to approve.
You have to
No.
request a motion.
You
You were
request.
entertaining a motion.
I'm entertaining to approve.
I make a motion to approve 6.3 text amendment.
I second.
Motion made by Ms. McNeil, seconded by Mr. Morset. Ms. McNeil,
Aye.
Mr. Morset,
Aye.
Ms. Colon. Okay, so motion passes 3-0. 6.4.
Item 6.4, file number 22RZ04. The applicant is the town of Pembroke Park. The location is Southwest 30th Avenue. And the application before you, board members, is rezoning from C1 and M1 to the mixed-use entertainment district.
And I would like to include the presentation. Text amendment 6.4.
To this item.
This
This
one.
item.
All right.
Open the floor for comments. Close the floor. And I would like to entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve 6.4 text amendment mixed use entertainment district.
I second.
Motion made by,
Just to be clear, it's not text amendment, it's the rezoning.
Yeah, rezone to C1.
Oh.
C1 and M1.
Yes.
do you want them to vote again?
For the board's clarity,
We have
the last motion was approving the language, creating the mixed-use entertainment district, right? And you're recommending approval to the commission that you approve to the language that is going to incorporate this mixed-use entertainment district and define it. Now, this item is that you're recommending approval, or you're going to recommend, whatever the board's pleasure is, recommend approval or denial of the actual zoning, the present zoning designations that exist along Southwest 30th Avenue in this particular region, which are C1 and M1, to this newly adopted mixed-use entertainment district. That's what you're considering. So any motion would be a motion on the rezoning from the present uses of C1 and M1 to the to MXE, the mixed-use entertainment district.
So do we redo this?
You don't need to. If you just clarifying, I just wanted to make sure, Ms. McNeil, that you were that it was clear on the record that this motion is in support of. I believe you had a motion of approval. Your motion of approval is in support of the rezoning from C1 and M1 to MXE. Is that correct?
Right.
Right.
So motion was made by Ms. McNeil, seconded by Mr. Morset. Ms. Colon,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Aye.
Mr. Morset.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Now we go down to the ordinance, 8.1.
Okay.
But you could ask if there's new business. If any board member, anyone from staff wants to present.
Is there any new business that anybody would like to speak about?
Madam Chair, I think there's one more item.
No,
Yes,
this
it's
point
8.1.
was stricken.
Oh,
We're going
eight.
through.
Oh, new business, I'm
we're going
sorry.
through the order of the agenda. New business. Yeah. Okay, and
No new business. Okay, so next we will do ordinances
8.1, amending responsibility for connection to town system. Presentation by building official Nunez. And I will read the ordinance. Ordinance number 2022-017. An ordinance of the town of Pembroke Park, Florida, amending section 28-279, responsibility for connection to town system within chapter 28, zoning, and moving the section to chapter 26, utilities, rescinding ordinance number 2022-010, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code of ordinances, superseding conflicting ordinances and resolutions, and providing for an effective date.
Yeah, board members, Miguel Nunez, building official. I'm pretty sure that you see this item and I said, I have seen this before and it was approved before. This is just basically a housekeeping because originally when it was brought to you in a form of ordinance in 2022-010 and now it's 17, is because it was certain order and housekeeping that needed to be happened during this particular ordinance before the final approval by the commission. Therefore, we brought it here to you for maintaining that particular order, reapproval in all the conditions, and we can send it back for second reading to the commission.
Okay.
You need to open for public comment.
Okay, I can open for public comment. I closed public comment.
Board discussion.
Discussion?
No, we've been through this.
So now I obtain a motion to approve.
Well, just entertaining a motion from the board.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 8.1.
I second.
Motion made by Ms. McNeil, seconded by Mr. Morset. Ms. McNeil,
Aye.
Mr. Morset,
Aye.
Ms. Colon.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Maybe I'm not too familiar about the legalities of this, but when Ms. McNeil says approve ordinance, she is referred to ordinance 8.1 instead of ordinance 2022-017.
Yeah, I
Does it
think-
matter?
No, she said she's approving the ordinance and it's part of application.
I just
number 8.1. if we want to clear it for the record, just
Yeah.
to be cautious, absolutely. So, just to make sure that the board and the record reflects that Ms. McNeil made a motion to approve the ordinance that's before the board at this time, which is 8.1 in the agenda.
Perfect.
Well, ordinance number 2022-017.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that because of the connotation of this particular ordinance, I want to make sure everything is pristine.
Yes.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Old business.
Old business, please.
There is no business. It's just the way I do the agenda.
But we have to say.
It's fine.
Okay. So I adjourn at
No, motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
It's fine.